The fog had returned to London, but it was a gentle fog tonight, a soft gray veil that blurred the edges of the world and hushed the city into a kind of waking dream. It drifted past the windows of 221B in slow, silent waves, catching the light from the gas lamps and transforming it into a warm, diffused glow that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The fire crackled softly in the grate, and the clock on the mantelpiece ticked its steady, reassuring rhythm. I sat in my usual chair, a volume of medical essays open on my lap, though my eyes had long since ceased to follow the words. There was something about evenings such as this that invited contemplation rather than study, a gentle drifting of the mind that was its own form of rest. Holmes was at the window, his long form silhouetted against the foggy glass. He had been standing there for nearly an hour, perfectly still, watching the street below. I knew better than to disturb him during these periods of intense observation. He was not seeing the fog nor the occasional passerby. He was seeing patterns, connections, the invisible threads that linked the ordinary moments of city life into something larger. The knock on the door when it came was so soft that I scarcely heard it, but Holmes heard. He turned from the window, a faint smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Ah," he said quietly, "our visitor arrives at last. I confess, I had begun to wonder if she would come." She. But before he could answer, Mrs. Hudson appeared, ushering in a young woman whose presence seemed to fill the room with a kind of gentle light. She was perhaps 22 or 23, with hair the color of autumn leaves and eyes of a soft, thoughtful gray. She wore a simple traveling dress of deep blue, and in her hand she carried a small wooden box, intricately carved, that she held as if it were the most precious thing in the world. "Miss Elara Vance," Mrs. Hudson announced and withdrew. The young woman stood on the threshold, her eyes moving from Holmes to me and back again. There was no fear in her gaze, only a kind of wondering uncertainty, as if she had stepped into a story and was not yet certain of her role. Holmes moved forward, his manner gentle. "Please, Miss Vance, come in and sit by the fire. You are chilled, I think. The fog has a way of seeping into the bones." She allowed herself to be guided to a chair near the hearth, though she did not release the box. It rested on her lap, her fingers tracing the carved patterns absently, as if the touch brought her comfort. Holmes resumed his seat and regarded her with that quiet, penetrating attention that I knew so well. "Tell us," he said simply, "what brings you to Baker Street on such an evening?" She took a breath, steadying herself. "It is this," she said, lifting the box slightly. "And what is inside it? Or rather, what is not inside it? I do not know how to explain, Mr. Holmes. I only know that something impossible has occurred, and I have no one else to turn to." Holmes leaned forward slightly. "Then begin at the beginning. The impossible is merely the possible that we have not yet understood." She nodded, drawing comfort from his words. "My grandmother, Elara Morrow, passed away 3 months ago. She was 97 years old, and she had lived in the same cottage in the Lake District her entire life. She was a remarkable woman. The village people called her many things. Some said she had the sight. Others said she was simply wise beyond knowing. I only knew her as grandmother, as the woman who taught me the names of the stars and the language of the wind." Her voice caught slightly and she paused. Holmes waited, patient as the ticking clock. "When she died, she left everything to me. The cottage, her books, her few possessions. And this box. It was the only thing she ever told me was truly important. 'Guard it well, Elara,' she said. 'It has been in our family for longer than anyone remembers. It contains the heart of who we are.'" She held up the box, and now I could see the carvings more clearly. They were not merely decorative. They were symbols, intricate and ancient, spirals and circles and shapes that seemed to move in the firelight, though they were only wood. "For years I believed there was something inside. The box has weight, you see. It is not empty. But there is no lock, no key, no hinge that I can find. It is sealed, completely sealed, as if it were carved from a single piece of wood. I tried everything to open it. I was gentle, then less gentle. I took it to craftsmen, to antiquarians, to anyone who might understand. No one could find a seam, a join, any indication that it could be opened at all." "And yet," Holmes murmured, "you believe something has changed." Her eyes widened slightly as if surprised by his perception. "Yes. 3 nights ago I woke in the darkness. I do not know why. I only know that I felt a presence, Not threatening. Simply present. I lit a candle and the box was where it always was, on the table beside my bed. But it had moved. Just slightly. An inch, perhaps two. I told myself I was dreaming, that I had imagined it. She paused, and when she continued, her voice was smaller. Last night it happened again. But this time I was awake. I was reading by the fire, and the box was on the mantelpiece across the room. I looked up from my book and it was moving. Slowly, gently, sliding across the wood as if pushed by an invisible hand. It did not fall. It simply moved a few inches and then stopped. And I heard a sound. Like a whisper. Like someone saying my name, but from very far away. The fire crackled. The clock ticked. The fog pressed against the window. Holmes was silent for a long moment, his eyes fixed on the box. Then he rose and approached the young woman, his movements slow and deliberate. "May I?" he asked, indicating the box. She handed it to him without hesitation, as if she had been waiting to place it in more capable hands. Holmes took it to the lamp and examined it closely, turning it over and over, studying every curve, every carved symbol. He held it to his ear and tapped it gently. He held it near the fire, then away from it. He closed his eyes and simply held it, his long fingers spread across its surface. The minutes passed. The fog drifted. The fire settled. At last, Holmes opened his eyes. They held a light I had seen before, the light of a puzzle yielding up its secret. "Miss Vance," he said gently, "what do you know of your grandmother's family? Of where they came from before the Lake District?" She shook her head. Very little. She rarely spoke of the past. Only that her own grandmother had come from somewhere in the north many years ago. Beyond that, nothing. Holmes nodded as if this confirmed something. "The symbols on this box are not merely decorative. They are a language. An ancient one, predating written English by many centuries. They are found in only a few places in the British Isles. On standing stones. In burial chambers. And on objects such as this, created by a people who believed that certain things should not be opened, should not be seen, until the right moment arrived." He held the box up to the light. "This box was never meant to be opened by force. It was meant to be opened by time. By the passage of generations. By the arrival of a specific moment, a specific person, a specific need." He turned to her and his voice was very gentle. "The moving, the whisper, your grandmother's name. These are signs, Miss Vance. The box is not haunted. It is not malevolent. It is simply ready. Ready to reveal what it has held for so long. And you are the one it has been waiting for." She stared at him, her gray eyes wide. "But how? How do I open it?" Holmes smiled. "Not by force. Not by cleverness. By trust. By understanding. Your grandmother told you it contained the heart of who you are. She meant that literally, I think. Not a physical heart, but the essence, the story, the truth of your lineage. The box will open when you are ready to receive what is inside." He returned the box to her hands. "Take it home. Place it where you can see it. Do not try to open it. Do not try to force it. Simply be with it. Let it become part of your life, part of your days and nights. And when the moment is right, when you have grown into the person you are meant to become, it will open. Not because of anything you do, but because of who you are." She looked down at the box in her hands and her eyes filled with tears. "She knew," she whispered. "Grandmother knew. She knew I would come here. She knew you would understand." Holmes said nothing, but his expression was kind. After she had gone, carrying her mystery back into the fog, Holmes returned to his chair. He did not take up his violin. He simply sat, staring into the fire, his face thoughtful. "A strange case," I ventured. "Perhaps the strangest we have encountered." Holmes shook his head slowly. "Not strange, Watson. Simply different. Most of our cases involve the concealment of truth, the hiding of something that should be revealed. This is the opposite. It involves the protection of truth, the guarding of something that should remain hidden until the proper time. Your grandmothers, my grandmothers, all the grandmothers who came before, they understood something we have forgotten. That some things cannot be rushed. That some secrets must ripen like fruit on the vine, and can only be harvested when they are ready." He was silent for a moment. "Miss Vance will open that box one day. Not tomorrow, not next month, but when she is ready." And when she does, she will find not gold, not jewels, but something far more precious. She will find her own story waiting for her across the years. She will find the face of the woman who first carved that box, the hopes she carried, the love she passed down through generations. She will find, in short, herself. The fire had burned low, the flames giving way to a bed of deep orange embers that pulsed with a gentle, fading heat. The fog continued its slow dance past the windows, and the clock ticked on, measuring out the moments of the peaceful night. I thought of my own grandmother, long gone, and the small wooden box she had left me, the one I kept in my desk drawer and had never truly examined. Perhaps it was time to look at it with new eyes. Perhaps it was time to understand that some gifts are not given, but discovered, slowly, over the course of a life. Holmes had closed his eyes, his breathing deep and even. He was not asleep, I knew. He was simply resting, allowing the silence to wash over him, letting the mysteries of the day settle into the larger mystery of the night. Outside, the fog began to thin, and through its shifting veil, the first stars appeared, tiny points of light in the vast darkness. The city slept. The river flowed. The centuries turned, patient and unhurried. And somewhere in the quiet streets, a young woman walked home through the mist, carrying in her hands a box that held the heart of her family, waiting for the moment when time and truth would finally meet. The embers glowed. The clock ticked. Ann Baker Street, wrapped in the deepest peace of a solved mystery, settled into the long, dreamless hours before the dawn.